Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Benjamin, and I'm here today to tell you a bit more about Bao Living. It's quite a big screen, I must say, the biggest I've ever presented for, so I'll try to make the best of it. Anyway, so before I'm going to start explaining what we at Bao Living do precisely, or what we've been up to for the last 3 years, I always start with a little bit of an explanation about the current state of the construction industry. So, there are three main reasons why me and my co-founder Axel van der Donk started the business. Oh, technical issue. There we go. All right. So three main reasons why we started the business, and the first one is the rapid urbanization that we see happening all across the world. With this, I mean the fact that today 50% of the global population lives in cities, but that will become 75 or 70% in 2050. So that means that an extra 2.5 billion people will go from rural areas to cities in the next 3 decades. This will mean that we are getting into the biggest construction bull market we have ever seen, to say it like that. So there will be a need for around 1 billion new homes, mostly in cities, because the average family size is 2.5 people, or is getting to 2.5 people. And because these homes will need to be built in cities, they will mostly be in the form of apartments. So this will be one of the biggest challenges that we face, we believe, in the next couple of decades. Because if we build these homes in the way that we do it today, there will be a huge economic and environmental disaster. So we see that this trend is already happening in our cities as well. So in Antwerp, for example, where we are based, we know that 40,000 people would like to move into the city center of Antwerp in the next 10 to 12 years. So that's quite a challenge as well. So that's one of the main challenges that we are trying to solve, urbanization. The second one is the increase in cost price. So since the beginning of this century, there has been an increase of around 75% in the cost of construction. This is mostly because of the increase in the legislation about how the way homes need to be built, so more environmentally friendly already, but also the increase in the cost of wages. This has led to the fact that today around 70 newly built flats in Belgium is around 75 square meters. In the beginning of the century this was still 90 square meters, and all of the studies are indicating that we're going towards 60 square meters in Belgium, but it's already smaller in a lot of the European countries. Towards 2030. So people are going to live in a much smaller size, or the homes will be anyway. And then the final reason why we started the business is the environmental impact of the construction industry. Today, the construction industry has the biggest negative influence of all industries globally, and this isn't really a surprise because it's also the biggest industry. So 18% of the total economic output of the world, of humans, to say it like this, is the construction industry. But the impact on the environmental, on our environment is with a factor, or is 2 times higher even. So around 35% of all global, greenhouse gas emissions are coming from the construction industry. More than 30% of all waste is construction waste. And more than, or around 40% of all the energy that we produce goes to the construction and the maintaining of buildings. So this is also a huge problem that we need to try to tackle in the next couple of decades if we want to live in a truly sustainable society, which in Europe at least we kind of agree upon. So this is just to say that there's a lot of things happening in the construction industry. There's a real shift happening. Because these issues that I just explained, we're not the only ones who have identified these. A lot of people and companies are finding these issues. And where a lot of changes are happening, there's also a lot of opportunity. That's something that we strongly believe in. And this opportunity is not only spotted by a couple of young students like we were three to 4 years ago. Also the biggest companies of our generation are identifying these opportunities. So Google, for example, they have a site, or one of their daughter companies is called Sidewalk Labs. I think a lot of people are well known with them. And they are now building a Google city, you could say, in Toronto, in Canada, which is one of the most wanted cities to live in the Western world. So also Google, which is one of the biggest companies in the world, has seen these problems and have seen also the opportunities that come with these issues when you can solve them, and are trying to make a difference. A second example that I can give of the really big companies or projects that are getting started is Catera. Catera is a Silicon Valley startup. It started 6 years ago by some people who worked at Tesla, who also wanted to try to make an impact on the problems that I just discussed. And they just raised 800, or in the beginning of 2018, they raised around 860 million dollars in their latest round. And their idea is to completely vertically integrate the construction industry in order to make it more affordable and sustainable. So those are a couple of examples of the biggest things that are happening in the construction industry, or the biggest companies that are working on it. But also on a smaller level, we see that a lot of change is happening. In Belgium, for example, we see examples like Skillpot, which makes modular homes on container sizes. You have around Media, who are world-class in the digital representation of homes and living spaces. And there's also ArcShelter, who are quite similar to Skillpot, but with a more design aesthetic to it. So there is a lot of small initiatives that are starting to try to make a difference on the issues that I started explaining. Now, what's the common thread with all these businesses is that they try to get the construction industry into the 21st century. And this is also necessary because if we look at the industry as a whole, we see that on certain levels it's lagging a bit. What I mean by that is that the 21st century consumer, with like all the people who are sitting here, I think can be named 21st century consumers. We are expecting certain elements of when we buy things. So when we buy something, we think it should become more affordable. Or we have the idea that things are becoming more affordable. If you think about music, for €5 each month, you have all the music that was ever created through Spotify or Apple Music. Or if you look at food, it's also becoming less expensive on certain elements, but also convenience. Convenience is becoming really important. Food can be delivered onto your home by bicycle or by bike, but also other elements like fully digitally integration, personalization and sustainability are becoming more and more important, and we see that the construction industry is lagging on these elements a bit. So that's also something that a lot of these businesses are focusing on to get everything in the 21st century. And this is also one of the reasons why we started Bao Living. So what we do is we design and we commercialize new systems to make the construction industry more affordable and more sustainable. That's the goal of our company. And we started thinking about this during our studies. So 3 to 4 years ago, Axel and I were studying a Manama in innovation and entrepreneurship at the Antwerp Management School. And we started reading about the issues that I explained in the beginning. And the first idea that we came up with is something like this, as you can see right here. So we had the idea of using containers that could no longer be insured. So after 10 years, apparently, a shipping container needs to be put on the side because they can no longer be used for insurance reasons. And we thought, what if we use those and make homes in them, in a factory environment, so it can be much more efficient and much more affordable. And then we will pick them up, put them on a truck, and put them at home or somewhere where they need to go. So that was the idea we had. We wrote a business plan around it. We pivoted a little bit because it looked, when we did the research, that shipping containers are not at all very good building materials when you live in Belgium. You don't know what's been in those shipping containers throughout those 10 years. So it could be uranium, for example, and then you would put people in there. That's not a very positive thing. So we pivoted a little bit towards these type of designs. This is from ArcShelter, but like this was the idea to make homes with the same size as a shipping container, but with wooden materials. So we wrote a business plan about it. And then by the end of the year, we had an agreement with a product development agency called Studio Dot to start developing this product. Now, however, before we started really developing it, the CEO of the product development agency told us maybe you should go and look throughout the market if this kind of product already exists, because otherwise we're doing the same work. And we felt, no way, we invented something genius. How could this be already been commercialized, or how could this have already been invented? But we were very wrong. So this idea was taking hold all across Europe and other countries as well. So after a couple of months, we went back to the drawing board and we realized that we needed to look at the issues from a different angle. So we started thinking, all right, the construction of a home, it mostly consists out of two big phases, the structure, which we were thinking about in the beginning. And then there's a second part, which consists of the utilities of a building. So, yeah, you know, the bathroom, the kitchen, the heating, the ventilation, all those elements. And the more that we started looking into the utility side of a building, we saw that there was a lot of opportunity for innovation, because we looked at how it was being done today and it was quite inefficient. So there are three main issues that we identified. The first one is being way too much stakeholders. So for every utility there's a different party that needs to come to the site itself, do the work on site mostly, by hand cutting into the structure, throwing the materials out of the window, literally, and then manually put everything in the structure to get going. And because they're all different businesses, there was a lack of communication, which leads to a really high error margin, which on this turn leads to a big increase in price. So that was something that we identified, like, okay, there's maybe potential over there. So what we came up with, but on a really basic level, is what if we design a product that includes all the utilities of a building and that we can produce in an automated factory environment, and then install it in a really fast and efficient way on site. And what if we make this product modular, so that we can really easily change it to the different sizes of the apartments or the living spaces where it would need to be placed in, and if it would be tailored to the shrinking living spaces of the future, as we just saw. We thought if we can come up with something like this, that could really help on the issues that we are trying to solve. So this was basically the idea. So this is how it happens today. So you have your 5 big utilities, your Wi-Fi, and today more home automation and IoT, that kind of stuff. But then heating, sanitation, ventilation, electricity. Today it comes in through the shaft, the technical shaft, and it gets dispersed all throughout the building manually. Our idea was to put it all together, produce it off-site, get it on-site, and install it in a really fast and efficient way. So at the end of 2015, we had a first sketch, a really rough idea of how a home with this type of product could look like. So this is the type of design that we made. And the product also had a name by then, so it's called SAM, or the Smart Adaptive Module. And at this point, we had 2 main issues, or 2 main technical problems that we needed to solve, namely the fact that if we would place all of the utilities in the building or in the product itself, all the different spaces in the home would need to be connected to the module, and that would work. But however, would it be able to give enough heat and enough ventilation to get everything heated up and ventilated as it was necessary? And the second thing that we needed to check upon was whether if we could put all the utilities inside the module itself, and to be more precise, in the bottom and lower 15 centimeters of the product, which is not a lot of space. So we needed to test these questions. I'm quickly going to blow my nose. Okay, sorry for the interruption. So we needed to test these technical questions, these technical demands. So we started to build a prototype, a really basic prototype, because we didn't really have a lot of funding, to say barely any. So we made this non-aesthetic first element, but we also built a small flat or walls around it, which we made ourselves with, and we also made it air tight with 500 meters duct tape from the action. If you don't have a lot of resources, you need to be creative of course. So by building this, we could validate the two main technical issues. It was able to ventilate and heat up the entire living space, and we could include all of the necessary utilities in the bottom and top 15 centimeters. However, at this point, we could no longer develop the product any further without external investment. So we started looking for investors, and we quite quickly came up to the company called Groep van Roei, which is a really big construction agency in Flanders, like a Eysermans in the Netherlands, for example. And they were quite quickly interested in what we were doing, so we started the negotiations, and I think 8 months later we had an agreement, so we could further develop the product. Now, before I'm going to further explain where we are today, I first want to say what's the main goals that we want to achieve with SAM, or with the Smart Adaptive Module. Firstly, we want to make the installment of the utilities much more affordable. So we want to reduce the cost of installing these with 30% in comparison with traditional installation techniques. We did a study together with Van Roei before they invested, and we saw that this 30% is possible. Not on purchasing, so there's a big difference. It is more affordable than a regular way of installing all these different utilities. However, the main savings are in the indirect costs. So on the time saving, we save around 2 months of installation time on average for a home. It also dramatically reduces the amount of on-site errors, which, by the way, we were really surprised to find out. But in Belgium, I don't know what's the case in the Netherlands, but in Belgium, an average construction project, 10% of the total price is calculated in error margin. So we were really flabbergasted, to say it like that, when we found that figure out. Like 10% is just calculated in error margin. So we can dramatically lower that one. And then we also deliver fixed furniture instead of walls. So we replace a big amount of the interior walls by really high quality furniture, but for the same price. But a cabinet, instead of a wall, has a bigger utility function than a wall. So all these elements combined, we saw that the 30% was achievable. Then last year, we participated in a Climate Kick Accelerator program in the Netherlands, where we saw that we could save around 5 tons of CO2 by installing a SAM. And these savings are mostly realized because we remove the need of cutting into the structure of a building, which is a really inefficient and really contaminating process, because you use a material twice to perform the same function. You install it, then you cut it, you throw it away, you put the wiring in there, and then you take a different material to put everything back together, which, when you think about it, is quite inefficient. And it also has a big negative environmental impact. So, another element that we really developed a system on is modularity. So SAM is not only the first rough prototype that you saw there, where you can see a digital rendering right here. It's more a library of modular elements. Today we have around 20 of them, so 20 types of cabinets, you can say. And with this modular library, we can really easily make different types of SAMs for different types of living spaces. We have written software to do this, so we have a 3D configurator where we can now really easily, if we receive plans from a project developer, put our system in there and link it to the price or the offering that we would need to give to the project developer. So that's also something that we were really focused upon while developing the product. This also means that the product itself can be really implemented in a really wide range of different houses, so student homes, service flats, holiday homes. The repurposing of empty office space to living areas is also possible, but also renovation is a possibility. So now a couple of real-life cases. We have built a couple of SAMs at this point. So a couple of minutes ago I talked about the Groep van Roei, or so after the investment we had the possibility to really fully build a SAM unit, fully functioning, fully aesthetically pleasing. So that's what we did. We started in the beginning of 2018, and at the end of April 2018 we delivered our showroom, as we call it today. So you can see where the green and red buttons are. That's where our heating and ventilation is included inside the system. As much of the, almost all of the electricity is also inside the module. All of the sanitation is inside the module. So this is the other side from the sleeping, from the bedroom. Same story, heating, ventilation, it's all in there. Toilet is in there. Kitchen is in there. The heating, the lighting also starts from the upper area. So the main idea basically behind this module is that we can completely decouple the utilities of a building from the structure of a building, which we believe will be really important in the future to make really ecologically friendly buildings. Why? Because today, when a building is constructed, at the end of its life cycle, it's just being torn down completely, and all the different materials are still inside the structure, and there's no way to recycle all the different types of material that's inside the building. But if we start to build with these type of products, you can build a structure, put a product like a SAM in there, and at the end of the life cycle of a building, you can remove the module, and then you can just need to throw down the structure of the building, and the structure can be one type of material, and the SAM, because it's not embedded in the building, can also be disassembled, and different material types can be included in the right material cycles again. So that's something that we strongly believe in, that will be necessary to really build ecological friendly homes in the future. Right, so a little side note. Then we have built our first commercial product at the end of 2018, so it's actually still being finished up. But it's a home, a single home, so it's kind of outside of our main focus. But why did we choose for this project, or why did we go with this project? Because it's designed by Bast, which is a really environmentally friendly architectural office in Ghent. So they really believed in the vision that we have, and they also really wanted to commit to it. So they included the SAM unit, but they also went really innovative with the different elements of the home. So they also bought a modular structure which can be assembled in a really efficient way. But instead of me explaining it, I will show it with a little movie that we have. Yeah, maybe I shall just show the entire thing. It's 3 minutes. Do we still have 3 minutes? Okay. All right. Why did I show this movie? Because it shows what we do, of course, but also to indicate what's possible already today if you take the most innovative new ways of building homes and combine it inside one project. On average, a home of this size takes, I don't know, if you're really efficient, 12 months if you do it with traditional techniques. On average, I think more realistic, 18 months. And we built a home here ready. It still needs some paint, but otherwise it was ready to move into in seven working days. And it was the first time that all these different elements were combined. So if you think ahead and there's more efficiency and more trial and error, we believe it's possible to build homes in days instead of months. All right, so that's the first project. A couple of different ones that are coming up. The next one is with the University of Brussels. We are going to renovate 2 of their student flats. It's also a research project of the European Union to once again see how circular, like what I just explained with the materials, how circular can you already build a home with the products that are on the market today. And then another one is in March, so this is in February, and then in March we have a renovation of a flat in Antwerp on the 9th level of a building, which also will need to be completed in a couple of days. And then we are looking, so after these smaller projects, there are a couple of bigger ones coming up. So we have sent some invoices for a combined potential of another 60 SEMs, mostly in the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. And then we are working on designs for a potential of another 1,200 SEMs. But it's mostly one really big project consisting of 1,000 and then 6 relatively smaller ones. Of course, these are not at all insured, but it shows that there's demand for these type of products in the market. So a little bit more about us, about our team. So my name is Benjamin, my co-founder Axel, he's the CTO, and then for the last 5 months already, there's a third team member called Joti, and he's also working on the product and on the execution of the different projects. And then we have partners, so I already mentioned Van Roey, their daughter company Van Hout.pro to be precise. They are building the cabinets, and they were our first investor. Studio Dot, they helped us with the design, and they still help us with the design of the product and the further product evolution. And with Marke, we do everything of the delivery of all the different HVAC elements. So to end my presentation, I started by explaining these 3 main issues that we identified a couple of years ago in the construction industry. What are we aiming to do in the next 2 years to make a positive impact on these problems? We first want to build multiple SAMs in commercial projects, of which the first one has already been built, as you just saw. To also validate that we can save 30% on the cost price in a really practical way, not only on a theoretical level. Then we quite quickly want to scale the idea, so in 2 years' time we would like to grow internationally. We believe that the Dutch market is a really logical next extension for the product, but we will see. We're going to do a really thorough analysis of this. And then in the long end, or in the really far away future, 5+ years, our vision is to help expedite the move from really costly and really polluting systems or construction systems to more affordable and more sustainable friendly systems. And if we can achieve this vision, however big or small, if we have made a positive impact on these issues, it would have been a success for us. Okay. Thank you very much. If you want to stay up to date about what we are doing, how it's going, our potential hiring opportunities, you can visit us on our website, and there are all the different social media and newsletter things that you can follow. Thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any questions, shoot.